Hello, good morning. I wanted to start this video off probably with a little bit of space. I was going to say silence, but it doesn't have to be silence. Just if we create some space inside us and inside ourselves, we try and go into our body. Just a quick slight meditation. So if we do that now. Close your eyes if you like. So it's a wonderful Tuesday morning at the moment. I'm not sure if you could hear the birds singing just now. But yeah, I just wanted to come on, say hello to everybody. Let you know it's a beautiful morning in where I am in the sunny United Kingdom. I say sunny, that was sarcasm. It's not very sunny at all. So the thoughts for today have been more about the self, more about me, and how things kind of hit me, and while I was thinking about it, it brought me back to something I say to my son quite a lot. Well, actually, it's a complaint that my son brings to me quite a lot. Me again, and he tends to always express that things are being done to him. People are not wanting to play with him specifically. People are not wanting to involve him, or if something's done, if there's a noise going on around him, the noise is done to him. It's done to annoy him specifically. So he's taken on a lot of problems and saying, that's being done to me. I'll give a backwards example actually. So, say if I don't know, my son leaves some rubbish on the floor. This is a lesson I should actually teach to him. So say if he leaves some rubbish on my floor and he doesn't tidy it up. No, it's my floor. I like the place to be tidy enough, and if there is mess, I'd rather it be mine than anybody else's. So if he leaves his mess on the floor, I could perceive that as something that he's done to me. He's disrespected me by leaving his mess on the floor. But really, in the whole reality of the whole world and everything that's actually going on, is there's nothing at all about me. Nothing at all is going on in his head when he leaves that rubbish on the floor about me. There's no disrespect whatsoever. There's no personal attack towards me. There's no reason I should get upset or angry that he's done that without putting it in the bin. Like, he hasn't actually done anything apart from absent-mindedly just left his rubbish on the floor. There's no evil intent. There's no reason to tell him off. There's a reason to educate him. There's a reason to teach him on how to, keep himself tidy, and that he's in somebody else's house and that you should pick the rubbish up and put it in the bin. It's an education opportunity or an opportunity to continue on telling him how to be a better person in the world. But it's not something I should look at and go, oh no, again, you've left rubbish on my floor, blah blah blah, and then go off on a good old tangent about how badly he disrespects me because he leaves the place a mess, and the typical thing that most parents would actually do. Excuse me while I take a sip of my morning brew. It's got a Easter egg cup. I've had this for a very long time. Mini egg. Oh, is that advertisement? Ooh, but yeah, it's an Easter egg cup. Advert on the bottom. Do I have to play that legally? I'm not sure about rules. I don't even know where this video is going to go. So anyway, as I was saying, yeah, so that's me taking something in the world that's going on around me. It's something that I'm adding to myself, and then when that thing that I've added to myself gets disturbed, there's a disruption in that thing that's not what I wanted. If that makes sense, it's an attack on me. It's my personal thing that's gone wrong. It's my flaw that's had the mess that's been dropped on. So that's an attack on me. And then because it's my flaw and I want it tidy, then I'm attacked when somebody drops rubbish on my floor, doesn't wipe their feet when they come through the door, or leaves mess or spills a drink on the floor. Because I've attached the house, the home, the tidiness to me as a person and how I want things to be. When it's not like that, it's an attack on me, and then I get slightly more disgruntled than what I should be, rather than seeing it for what it truly is. I talk a lot about truth, and that's kind of what I mean. There's a lot of meanings to truth, I believe. I'm not going to deviate from the subject of me, but I just want to talk a little bit about truth, because the truth of what something is really what we need to see in life. Because if we see it as like this mind-made concept of, like I said, my flaw, that somebody else has dropped rubbish upon, and that flaw is no longer the ideal flaw that I wanted it to be like, and then I get angry and wind up about that, I'm not seeing the truth of what's actually happened. The truth of what actually happened is there's a piece of plastic on the floor that a child at a young age has absent-mindedly left there, which isn't a problem to anybody or anything. It's no real thing. It's no real thing if I pick it up and put it in the bin. It's no real thing if my son picks it up and puts it in the bin. It's no real thing if it gets left there. The truth of it is that there's nothing to have a problem with. The one thing that could even be something you could consider in this situation is the education of the child to take the opportunity to continue on, to tell them how to look after and prepare themselves in life. I was just it's probably a bad example to use, to be honest with you, because it's not the rubbish that's left on the floor that grinds at us. It's the more deeper and darker things that happen in our lives, or to us throughout life, I suppose. The constant kind of it's hard to explain, actually. It's hard to give a good example of things that we hold on to and inevitably kind of suffer from when we lose them. And that is part of the me, because the reason we build this me is it's more of a way to get on in life, to be honest. It's more of something you do as a child. So you kind of actually need to build a me as you're growing up. You don't need to, but you cannot avoid it. I don't think it's going to be possible to avoid building a me or a I in a child, during their upbringing, because it's how they perceive the world. It's how they become. It's how they excuse my wheezing. It's how they become part of the world. They need to see the objects as separate from themselves at first, and then I suppose they need to identify them as what they are, in a sense of they're being brought up in a social situation. They're with a parent, two parents at least, and maybe one parent at least, and then maybe even other siblings. So in this world of things, they need to be able to determine what's what and whose is whose, which sounds really bad, okay? Because obviously we don't want to identify things with ourselves, and things with the me, because it makes the me and the I bigger. But it's inevitable. It's something we do as we're growing up as children. We get possessions. I would say, as I was growing up, I would say it was going to be birthdays, or is what probably built the me for me growing up. And actually, a bit of isolation as well. Birthdays and being pushed separately from my two brothers. I think that kind of built a me, a big me, or a big I, because I was being separated from my two brothers. I was young and bullied by them. So as I was pushed away, I built this me. It was a sad me, unfortunately. It was a lonely me that I'd developed at a very young age. I remember sitting in my bedroom on my bed, like on my own, kind of thinking through things. I've always been a deep thinker, and I must have been at least 4. No, I'm probably about 5 or 6, and I remember just sitting on my bed and thinking about all sorts of different things. I've always been a deep thinker. So yeah, that's how my me was developed. It was more of not bullying, but it was more of a segregation, being pushed away from two other siblings and separated from them. Kind of made me kind of develop my me, and then as you grow up, birthdays, getting presents just specifically for myself. They were mine, I suppose, the objects that I received for birthday. And then that slowly builds the me and the I. To be honest with you, actually, I would say myself, I've never really been the average person, but I have. Obviously, I'm still victim to all the same human needs, wants, emotions, and basically the social conditioning that we're brought up into. So yeah, my me kind of just built up as a child, and I just think it's completely inevitable. And as that me builds, the I gets bigger and bigger. We get to a stage, I believe, maybe college, when we're at school. We kind of need this I, this me, it kind of does serve a purpose at the early stages of our life. And this is another thing I want to take from this, actually, to point out in spirituality and teachings. In Eckhart Tolle's teachings, he'll whenever someone young comes across, and they'll ask a question, and it's not really a question that can be answered, almost, because it's like a catch-22 kind of question, and it's about the teachings, and it can't be answered. And the answer to that question, I'm not going to ask what it is, because it doesn't matter. The answer to the question is always, don't worry about the teaching, go on about your life, live your life, basically. Like, don't worry about being spiritual, don't worry about finding the book, don't worry about reading the book, don't worry about it, just go and live your life. And then, if the book finds you again, then pick it up, read it, and take it on from there. And it's almost like saying you don't need this, or you still need to go through some stages of the me. The me still, the me has kind of found spirituality and the teachings because it wants more to identify with itself, rather than something that's broken through. The me is gone. I need to find something away from me and then find the teachings. And then with Wayne's teachings, it's more of an afternoon, like he says in quite a lot of his more later teachings. It's more of something that happens in the afternoon of your life, as he puts it. I think he got that from Carl Jung. So as I'm talking, I don't know who quoted what, so please don't don't get funny over who said what or whatever. But from what I got from Dr. Wayne Dyer's teachings was that he had a way of basically, you need the ego, you need to be able to, you need ambition in the morning of your life. You need to come into life trying to get things, trying to seek things, trying to get further in life, because it plays a role. It plays a very important role at that stage of your life, because it pushes you forward. And this is what I go back to, where I'm saying you kind of need your ego. You need to build a me, and you need to build an I in our society, in our world, because you just won't function properly. And that me, I mean, if possible, as you're a child, if you've got parents that could teach you to not be attached to that me as you're growing up, and it's a separate entity with you're pulling along with you, it's your world me, so to speak. It's your outside me, and then you've got an inside me which is separate from that, so that if any of your outside stuff crumbles, I'm doing hand gestures, so if any of your outside stuff crumbles, it's not here, it's over there, that's fallen and crumbled. I'm here, I built that anyway, so this isn't crumbling, that's crumbling, this isn't crumbling, just that. What? I should probably do some camera action, shouldn't I? That sounded a bit dodgy. Let me find where I was. Get some more coffee before it goes cold. It's a big cup, and because it's like spacious, it disperses the heat very well and cools down my coffee very quickly. It's delicious. Only because of sugar, which I really shouldn't eat. So anyway, the morning and the ego, the me, the I that we need to build as we're going up. So we do actually need it. I'd say until we're around about 20, 22, and then in our 20s, I really strongly believe it's something that we need to, anybody that reaches the age of 20 and starts their career, even though you're still needing to promote yourself and sell yourself and say how great you are with all these things and amazing, so you can get jobs and push yourself forward and climb the ladder higher and higher and higher and higher. That's the time I believe we need to start really stripping away the layers that we've built up onto us, because if we don't, and the layers are forced away, it becomes a problem. The me's attacked, the me's completely destroyed. We almost collapse inside and crumble into a tiny little ball, and then we have to deal with it all anyway. So it'd be good if maybe as we're kind of getting into the age of kind of 22, 23, that's when we need to start looking at investing outside. I say outside of ourselves, but investing inside of ourselves rather than outside of ourselves, because that investment is much more powerful. And from then on, it would also, from then on, the person, when you see a person at that age pushing for their career as well as being a well-grounded kind of person who can kind of understand things and not like it's really hard to explain. I'm really struggling to find the right word for it, but just a nice, well-grounded, kind of older, wise minded person. It's beneficial for someone at that young age to be able to move away from the traditional, because in your 20s you're like, way parties, and you go out, you do all sorts of craziness, which is good. It's good and it's fun, and you can still do that, but you can do it without the whole investment in your ego, your big built-up identification of who you are. So yeah, I think I'm digressing slightly from the me. That's been my thoughts this morning since I've got up. I led in bed slightly, just thinking about a few little things, and I just wanted to share it with you guys, really. I say you guys, I just want to share it. So yeah. I think also if we manage to let go of the kind of the layers we built up when we were younger. To be honest, actually, I think we do actually let go of the layers we bring up when we're younger, but we do continue to build the layers upon layers of different. We kind of strengthen them slightly, like like how a tree grows. Originally, it has this one little thing, and then it actually grows outwards, outside. Layers upon layers upon layers, and it gets fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter, and you get this big, massive, stonky, like oak tree, big, chinky, grand oak tree, stood there with all its grand presence, and all the layers are actually built up on the outside, and it's strong, very, very strong. But to But so yeah, so when you build up those young layers, basically what I'm trying to say is I'll try and put it in a better way, because the more I tried to explain that, then the more I'd kind of lost myself. So as say you go from being 6 to 10, you're building up layers of a 6 to 10-year-old would build up. You'd have identification of different types of things, and then so from 10 to maybe 16 you would build up a completely different identification. It'd be like a young, look cool maybe, or if you're in a different environment, like a young type of, it'd be completely different type of layers basically. And then from 16 to 20 it'd be like career driven, who you are, entrepreneurial type layer type stuff, more of a, and that's what I mean by the different layers. Obviously the first layer is the child, with its childish things, with its toys and all the things that it needs to, and all the things that it identifies with. The second layer is like, as the child goes from child to boy or girl, starts to become a girl or a boy or a male or a female in the sense of the society and, what they're expected to be or do. That's a sensitive subject in today's world, I know. So then there's more layers from then on, once you've identified with who you are. You're doing the whole career-driven, entrepreneurial type stuff, and then from then you're kind of living to become successful. You're living to become married, relationship, married, home, children, or relationship, home, marriage, children. That's the ideal kind of way that you would expect things to go. And then that's I suppose that's everybody's kind of, not ideal life, but that is most people's expectation of life. You'll grow up, you go through school, you'll go to university, hopefully get a great career, great university degree. Then you'll leave uni, you'll get an amazing job, you'll find an amazing partner, you'll have an amazing relationship, you'll have an amazing home, have an amazing marriage, have amazing children, have an amazing life, have an amazing retirement, and then have an amazing time moving on to be reborn again, I suppose. And that's everybody's kind of, I'd say, ideal life, and that's kind of, I would say, everybody's expectations to a degree. Especially in Western society, that's kind of what you're pushed towards. It's kind of what's considered prestigious, so to speak. If for the British person to be to follow that life path, you'd be a prestigious person, especially at university. If you haven't attained university, you're not the cream of the crop. So that's not quite right, but again, identifications. I'm not gonna pretend I'm some kind of spiritual being. I've had an awakening. I definitely have had an awakening I thought I had an awakening back in 2008, but clearly not, because I had an awakening more recent than that. And that awakening was one that put me in a position to really see that I wasn't awake, and really open my eyes to things that I'd never experienced. But I'll go more into that a bit later in my video series. I'm gonna try and do a morning video every day. So to summarize, let me just summarize this video quickly, because I want you to understand what I was getting at with the me, and the need to dissolve it, basically. So as you can see, as I was trying to explain, that the me, it's more of like it's more of a tool that we use to be victims of things in our lives, me and my problems, me and my boss, me and my life, me and my wife, just me and my girlfriend, me and my anything really, just anything that's been done to me. If we can dissolve the me and see that anything that gets done is just done, regardless of whether there's a me there or not, and that it's not something to you, it's not a personal attack, it's not to you, even if somebody says, oh, I hate people who park funny, and you're somebody who parks funny, like, that's not you. You're not someone who parks funny, if that makes sense. Eckhart said a good thing about language, actually. I know I keep digressing off the subject, but I'm just trying to do a morning talk with you guys, really. Try and get some videos on my channel, and get my thoughts kind of out onto video, so I can look back at them myself. So Eckhart said a good thing, and I believe this is a very prominent thing in language, that the normal person, or the average person, as they call it, wouldn't generally understand. So there was a video I watched, and they were talking about how the English language, the common English language, is like used to keep people below surface, and that there's a language used in English that kind of frees people. It sounds really like, what? It's just language, it's just words. But I'll give you an example of how language is used and how impactful it can be. So Eckhart was talking about calling a tree. He might have been referring to a flower, I'm not too sure. So as your child's growing up, you're teaching them different things. Let me just take another. Ooh. Oh, that is very cold. And the child will point at something and say, "Hey, Daddy, what's that?" And there's two things that I can say. I can say, "That's a tree," or I can say, "That is called a tree." And the language is powerful, because if I tell him that's a tree, then that whole object now becomes a tree. It becomes a word. It becomes TREE, a tree. But if I say that is called a tree, that object is separate from the name. It's named a tree. but the object's still there, regardless of the name, because it's called a tree. Does that make sense? Am I thinking too deeply here? Are you able to catch on to that concept of language? Because if I'm calling it a tree, then it's not closed off from everything else that it is. It's not closed off from how big it is. It's not closed off from how grand it is. It's not closed off from. It's basically this big, massive, like, majestical presence just stood there. I mean, yeah. Have you ever been by a massive, strong oak tree and just like looked at it? And, like, if you really kind of not look at it, like, but if you're really near it, you look at it and you really experience that tree. It is like, it's powerful, and you kind of feel small next to a big, strong old oak tree. Yeah, trees have definitely got some kind of grand power. I mean, at the end of the day, if there were no trees, there would be nothing else for us. I think we'd die of carbon monoxide poisoning, I believe. So, I mean, just the fact that they're the essence of our oxygen. Yeah, I mean, I've never actually thought about it. So that was 30 minutes. So, I mean, I've never actually thought about it like that before, but the tree being so... It's not just a tree, is it? Just one tree. It's just a tree, okay? It's not, but just one tree. But trees in general are what are giving us our life force on this planet. They're the air we breathe, and oxygen for us on this planet is just as important as water. Without water, there'd be no life. Without oxygen, there'd be no life. Without oxygen, there'd be no water. I mean, thinking about it, trees provide the oxygen, but then without the oxygen, you wouldn't be able to grow a tree without the water. Anyway, maybe that's a thought for maybe tomorrow. So yeah, this is just mainly about the me and how we need to kind of see it for what it is. Try not to let things hit us. If anything's gone on in our life, or someone's been rude to you, or you've been in a queue and ordered food and they've just been really rude, no service whatsoever, you've been shortchanged, you've been cheated on. I know it's harsh, but even the deeper, darker things that happen to you, it's not to you, it's not personal. There's no you that can be hurt. You know, there's only identification with what you believe is you. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. It's just my thoughts for the morning. I know I kind of shoot off into different directions and things when I'm doing these videos, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and goodbye. Ready? Bloop.